It's pretty obvious to me that the Trump 2020 leadership, and this would be Stephen Miller, an admitted white nationalist, a Nazi, right? Who has they've exposed all his emails, and this guy should have resigned, should have been kicked out, is the guy behind the no mask wearing, is the guy who is whispering into the buffoon. You know, Trump is a buffoon. He listens to people's whispers, to their cudgeling of his ego, to them, like massaging, and building him up. And, this sycophant and true manipulator of Trump, and this is what's going to be exposed in the future, that the power Miller had as, oh, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that, you want to stand strong. And the dumbass buffoon listens to him. I mean, I'm sure it's going to come out that it was Miller who basically said, "Oh, we get you back on the campaign trail," because really, the thing is this Nazi wants to thin the herd. If there's a disease that basically is killing 50 to 80% more Type A minorities, right, than Type O whites. I'm a type O, right? If us whites are type O, and there's now plenty of evidence showing that blood type is actually, preventing the coronavirus. So if you're a type O, you're less likely to die. But if you are basically have no health insurance because they're gotten rid of Obamacare, 40 million Americans are in the poverty line, right? The elderly, get rid of them. They're dead weight. They're costing the system, all these social programs for the poor, all these social programs for elderly, and so on. And you're going to kill more African Americans, more Latinos because of their poverty and their ethnicity. Then the virus is a great tool. And why would you encourage anyone to wear masks? So what do? You politicize the whole mask wearing, which was, brilliantly done by Trump. And you have to ask yourself, where did this start? And I'm telling you, it starts with this Nazi in the White House who hates the Muslims, hates minorities, has been working for white nationalists, and and who manipulates the buffoon, right? Donald the buffoon. That'd be a great cartoon, Donald the buffoon. Um, and Texas, Florida, where's the other one? Can't think of the other place right now. Minnesota, all these places with Republican governors who listened to Trump, who is manipulated by this Nazi, have basically done his bidding. Because here's another thing: if you can eliminate, potentially a significant number of voters, and someone covered this. It's like, this has been out there, but if we can spread the virus, we have 4 months to basically thin the herd, to thin out. Okay, and the thing is, what they didn't count on is actually Americans aren't dumb. The Trump 2020 individual isn't dumb. There's a core component of the cult who, regardless, 16% of the American people are going to go for Trump regardless. They're the cult followers, 16%. Now, where did I come with this number of 16%? Well, it's something called the law of diffusion of innovation, or the law of customer adoption, or Trump adoption, the law of Trump adoption, 16%. And next to those 16%, there is 2.5% who are going to follow them. You see, they're going to hold up some of the individuals as basically leaders. So there are these core social media pundits of Trump, like the Rush, like the Tucker, like what the hell's his other name? I can't think of his name. So I love my ability of basically wiping out people's names from my brain just naturally when I don't like them. My brain just purges them. I can't think of the guy's name. Tucker. What the hell's his name from Fox? I can't think of his name. You don't exist to me. You're such a fucking loser, basically. So the reality is, I'll think of his name in a moment. I can't believe I can't think of his name. I have his face in my head. Can't think of his name though. Um, these individuals ultimately have a following and they pull. But the thing is that as you move out from your paradigm, right? That after that it's 16%. So if you add the 16% plus the 2%, I'm sorry, 13%, right? You get your 30%. You get your number. It fits perfectly in the number of followers of Trump. Because after that, you've got 32%, 32%, right? And that's the 62. That's the other regular. So in essence, what we're fighting for are the same Trump 2020 people who are starting to awaken, right? They're starting to themselves and realize that, wow, if we would have just had a mask order by DeSantis in Florida, if we would have just had just these national rules, if we would have had the federal government basically laying national policy instead of saying we're going to let it up to be the states, because they wanted to politicize this, then we wouldn't have this change. And ultimately, we have someone in the background whispering to the president, to Donald the buffoon ear, and placating his ego with the idea of doing unprotected rallies. And see, we're not even going to see. We have another 2 weeks or week and a half, right, before we see the effect of the rally, Trump's rally. Okay, and I love, like, I've been reading some of the comments on the other news media, where basically they're saying, oh, it was the protests. It's not the protests. The protests will obviously have some effect on it, but this is Florida. This is Texas. There wasn't that much there was some protesting, but it was, there was far more protesting in New York. There was far more protesting in other, blue states. And the thing is, if we see those spikes, they're still a week out on the protesting. The spikes we're seeing now in Florida and other things is from Memorial Weekend, is all these clowns going to their pool parties and everything else. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing that. And we ultimately have leadership who does not basically hold science up. Instead, they listen to a buffoon who ultimately now is going to cause thousands of more Americans to die because they want this purging of minorities, of the poor, and of the weak and uninsured. They want this purging of Americans. And, that's what's happening. And it's so evident now that we're seeing. They're holding the national convention in Jacksonville, Florida. Oh my God, I'm going to be rushing to that. Anyway, it's sickening that we have this person still in the White House, this white nationalist, this Nazi called Miller, Stephen Miller, that even looks like Heimlich, right? He even looks like the very guy. And he is there whispering evil into the ears of Donald the buffoon. Undaudu.